Hey, 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 Chica! Welcome to the Lovelda Show Women of Power podcast, the show where women share their personal power tools, the techniques, strategies, and ways of being which have enabled their business and life success. I'm your host, Lovelda Vincenzi, a female speaker mentor, speaker, and event host on a mission to unleash authentic, powerful female voices onto the world. In today's episode, we'll be uncovering the power tools of Maria Franzoni. Maria is a speaking industry expert. In fact, she is one of the most experienced speaker bookers in Europe and a recognized speaking industry expert. She has held senior positions in two of Europe's leading bureaus, CSA Celebrity Speakers and the London Speaker Bureau, named by the New York Times as the only international speaker bureau. In 2007, she founded her own boutique bureau, imaginatively named Maria Franzoni Limited. In the 20-plus years she has been working in the industry, Maria has strived to raise the standards of bureaus, agents, and speakers alike, constantly innovating and doing things differently. In that time, she has mentored and trained many top speakers and bookers. Over the years, she has worked with the who's who and the who's that of the speaking world, including the first man to walk on the moon, Neil Armstrong, Body Shop founder and environmentalist Anita Roderick, singer, songwriter, and political activist Bob Geldof, and business magnate Richard Branson, and international singing legend Liza Minnelli, just to name a few. Maria is a founding member and former co-chair of the European Association for Speaker Bureaus. She is the director of operations at We Do Things Differently Cultural Change Consultancy. She is the founder and chief mentor at Speaking Business Academy, where she and her team provide training for new and established speakers. She is also the host of the Speaking Business podcast, where each week a speaker on the bureau roster is invited as a guest to share their expertise. Prior to working with speakers, Maria worked in retail management, management consultancy, educational travel, and as an entrepreneur starting 5 businesses, 3 successful, 2 not. Her experience in the industry has given her an excellent foundation for her speaker bureau work. All in all, you can expect a very business-focused, speaking-focused, action-packed episode as Maria shares all the secrets of her success. Oh, and the odd juicy celebrity story, like how Liza Minnelli made her cry. Now remember, all of the links shared can be found in the show notes, and the only way to ensure that you get your regular fix of this show is to subscribe, hit that subscribe button right now, to make sure that you get updates as soon as a new show is added. I think that's quite enough from me for now, so let us get on with the show! Hey, welcome back to the Lovelda Show Women of Power podcast. Woohoo! Oh my gosh, today we're with one of my favorite people in the world. I don't know. I mean, the woman is straight talking, straight shooting, very flipping successful. If you are somebody who is speaking, wants to be a speaker, ever thought about speaking on a stage ever before in your life, you better stay and listen to this whole podcast, because this lady knows her stuff. She's in the business. She's one of the best speaker bookers I know. And she's been doing it for years. Don't let me tell you everything about her. Please welcome my guest today, Maria Franzoni.
Hello, Lovelda. You've gone all American and razzmatazz.
What, you just think that you didn't know I had razzmatazz?
No, I knew. I've seen your dresses and the way you dress. You're very razzmatazz.
I was tempted to put the leopard print on today for you, actually. I've got this new leopard print top. I didn't get to wear it because the event's been postponed. And I'm sitting and I'm thinking, do I wear this leopard print? Maybe. It's going to have to come out.
Maybe we'll have to stop at half time so you can get changed, have 2 outfits.
Don't encourage me.
Really be a diva, yeah.
Any excuse. Anyhow, enough about me and my needs for outfit changes, Maria. Let's get straight into you, who you are and what you do. So for many people who, for whatever reason, have never come across you before, I'm just wondering, like, you need to Google this woman. How did you get into booking speakers? Like, what got you into that place in the first place?
But it was a complete and utter accident, a total accident. I've had several careers previously, and this is the one I've stayed in the longest because it's addictive. You will know, anybody who's a speaker will know it's really addictive. But I saw this very cryptic ad that said, if you can negotiate at senior level, come and talk to us.
Mm-hmm.
Very cryptic. And at that time, I had been a management consultant and had sat opposite CEOs of enormous companies, FTSE 500, FTSE 100, and told them what was wrong in their business. I thought, if I can do that, I can negotiate at senior level, right? And I'd also run my own businesses, and I actually started in retail management originally, which is a great place to start because it's one of the hardest jobs in the world, I think. So I really admire anybody in retail. Anyway, so I answered this advert. I had no idea what a speaker bureau was, and I just hit it off with the owner of the company, and I thought, oh, I like this because it allows me to use my business knowledge.
Mm-hmm.
Because as a management consultant, you learn a lot about business by trying to understand other people's businesses, of course. And so I thought, great, I can do that, and I can be constantly learning about people, and I'm dealing with some of the biggest brains on the planet. I mean, it's literally rarefied air. It's just unbelievable. I'm so lucky.
So it literally took everything that you liked, somewhat by accident, and put it all into one role. So what took you from doing this for other people to saying, you know what, I reckon I could manage a bunch of people myself. I think I could do this on my own.
Well, so first of all, anyone who knows me knows I'm a control freak, right? And I think once you've had your own business and run your own business, it's really hard to work for somebody else. Really hard. So when I went in, I didn't intend to then work for myself again, but you think, oh, I can do this better. I can do this differently. I can be more agile. I can be more responsive. I can have a higher standard. So I have high standards. I'm not a perfectionist, by the way, but I have very high standards, and I'm a control freak. So I could see that I could do things better. And so I thought, I'm going to have my own bureau, and I hope we've done that.
You do an incredible job, Maria, and I can attest that this woman has got incredibly high standards, and she don't like to drop them. Not even like blink. There's no blink in Maria's standards. Maria's standards are Maria's standards, and they are not going anywhere. I'm curious, working with such big names, really big household names, sometimes international names, celebrity type names, how have you managed to kind of hold your cool in that situation? Do you ever have any moments where you just have that like girl crush moment where you're just like, oh?
I used to, I think. Yes, I used to. I mean, when I first joined the very first speaker bureau, and I shall name some names. So the first company I joined was Celebrity Speakers, who've now rebranded as CSA. Mm-hmm. In the old days, celebrity meant celebrity was celebrated for your expertise and knowledge. Mm-hmm. Now, of course, anybody's a celebrity, so they've changed their name quite rightly. When I first started, the first thing that the founder, Alex Crywell, said to me, who do you want to meet in this process? Who is your idol? And I thought, wow, this is an amazing opportunity. He says, because all you've got to do is make sure that you find them the right job to speak at, and you get to meet them. You will get to meet them. And at that time, the man I wanted to meet was Neil Armstrong. Okay. And I got to meet him very regularly and got to have dinner with him and got to know him quite well. And after I'd met the man that I wanted to meet, I wasn't quite as emotional about starstruck. I did get starstruck on two further occasions, and these are sort of just people that I particularly love. So one was with Jonathan Ross, who is just a delight. And I think he knew he absolutely threw me, because I was standing in his office waiting for him to come in for a briefing meeting. And he came rushing in with coffees and he says, "Are you here for me?" And I'm going, yes, a bit too excited. And I'll never forget, he was wearing a purple and pink pinstripe suit, a purple and pink checked shirt, and a purple with pink spots tie and big bother boots.
Wow.
And he looked sensational. He was wonderful. The other one was Liza Minnelli, who was booked to sing with a trio, a jazz trio. And I was at the Ritz in the listening to the rehearsal, and one of my team were with me, and she was wonderful. My team member was going around checking everything was okay. She was with the manager, and I'm just standing there because Liza Minnelli's singing. And I didn't know that tears were pouring down my face. Really? And she stopped and looked at me, and I thought, oh my God. And I hadn't realized I was so emotional. And she just came rushing over and gave me this enormous hug. And she said, "Was I really that bad?" No! So I have had two big starstruck moments and one fantastic moment meeting the man I always wanted to meet. So yeah, you see, rarefied air, isn't it? It's just ridiculous.
just think it's wonderful that you've managed to ebb out a career that's allowed you to meet such incredible people that you admire.
Yeah.
I am going to ask you the question that I know is on a lot of people's lips who will be listening to this and thinking, Lovelda, please do not interview somebody who runs a bureau and don't find out what the heck it is that they're looking for. And I know this is a conversation you and I have had personally on a number of occasions. So, but sometimes people just don't want to believe me when I tell them what people be looking for. So maybe if they hear it from you, they will now really start to understand it. Because I know that there's people who think, right, I know what I'll do. Everybody tells me to outsource, so I'll find somebody else to book me. What to you makes that speaker that's got, celebrity status aside, because not all of us have that necessarily. We're not quite there yet. So for those of us who have a topic that we love or a passion and we're really into speaking, we want to make it big, what is it that stands out to somebody like you?
Okay, that's a huge
I know
answer.
I
It's
mean.
a huge answer. I know.
I'm so mean.
So first of all, you've got to be totally relevant to a paying market, because we're only interested in people that get paid because we get a commission, of course. And therefore, you need to be relevant to the market that a bureau serves. And a lot of people don't actually check out the bureaus and see who they work with. So that's the first thing.
So relevant to a paying market, not just you got a topic, you want to talk about it. I just want to stress this point, because people are like, what do you mean? No, you got to find people who actually pay and create something they would pay for first. Okay, so relevant to a market that pays.
And the best speakers anticipate needs, anticipate what's going to be coming next for the top clients, and then they're in a great position. So relevant. And then the other thing is really high standard. A lot of people come to bureaus and they're sharing content that actually is very low level. Ooh. Our audiences are super sophisticated. They've heard lots of speakers, and so many mistakes are coming in telling the same stories that have been heard over and over and over again, or telling the same. And so I do like unique, high-level content. That makes me excited. So if it's unique to you, and no, you're not copying it from anybody else, you've got a unique take on it or a unique way of presenting it, I do like that. And I personally, and I think most bureaus are the same, because most bureaus don't have time to sell and market someone new. I like someone who's already successful. Ooh. Unless you are super relevant, your topic's super relevant, you're just coming out of a position. So so you may not be successful as a speaker, but you're coming out of a role, perhaps advising a government on a topic, maybe advising on crisis management, whatever. Or you'll come out of a role as let's give an example of a hostage negotiator. Mm-hmm. So you may not have been speaking, but you have great expertise that would be relevant to business. So there's lots of other things, but I suppose those are the top ones.
And those are big in themselves. So relevant to a paying market, something unique and special, not the same old tired story, boo. You better come up with something new, high level, something new, different, and unique angle. You want to be paid already, unless you've got a really specific niche, and somebody who can think ahead of the market. Oh, and they don't have time to market you. So if you ain't got your marketing together, it's not exciting.
Yeah. You've got to have all your assets together. You've got to have all your a well-written bio, the topics, the descriptions, testimonials, video. You know that you and I talk about video all the time.
Oh, don't even get me started. If you're struggling with that stuff, by the way, in this episode, I don't think I'd put it in any of the others. In this episode, I will drop in an assessment. It takes you 2 minutes, free assessment, and you can assess where your speaking assets are today, which will give you the gaps. Do not use it as a tool to beat yourself up. Where there are gaps, there are opportunities. At least that is my opinion on it.
Yes. Yeah, and people have time at the moment, at the time that we're recording, to do things and get things done.
Time to get your head down and start working through that stuff. I'm going to ask you, because this, is a Women of Power podcast, do you see any discernible difference? I'm going to ask in a few different ways in terms of quality of content between men and women.
That's a big question. Yes and no. It's actually more a numbers game. There are
Okay.
more. What's interesting is that if you go to an association meeting of professional speakers, and there are lots of different associations, the balance of male-female is 50-50 in the group, and 50-50 as members and membership. Obviously, in your particular Facebook group, because you're about the girls, it's all female,
Yeah.
unless someone sneaks in. And but the people on paid stages are fewer. They're not as proportionally represented. And, you know, where is that? Why is that? I do think there's a lot of reasons, but I also think there is a bias. There has been a bias to listening to men in the past. I think it's changing. I think finally it's time for the girls to step up, which is great. But it is harder for women, definitely.
And why do you think that is? Do you think it's the unconscious bias that they're speaking into, or are our topics less relevant?
A lot of women do go into topic areas that are not relevant for our market, for example. And you know, also a lot of women are attracted to different topics. So if we look at one of our biggest topics is future, it'll probably be bigger now than ever. And most futurists or futurologists or whatever you want to call them, or trend casters, are men, because I think it attracts them more. Technology is the same, although it's changing. It's finally changing. But there are areas that women are more naturally drawn to. I do think there is an unconscious bias. I mean, I'd like to say there isn't, but there is. We see it everywhere. If there wasn't an unconscious bias, we would have parity. But also there is the other issue of childcare, and it tends to fall on the woman in the relationship. And I have seen situations where some excellent speakers have had their bookings, they've had to sort of step away from a booking or turn things down because they're having to deal with childcare issues, because a child's ill, and the role falls to them and they don't want to pass it on to somebody else. And I totally understand that. So there's lots of things. It's more complex than that, but those are the main things. And then, of course, Sheryl Sandberg quite rightly said, a lot of women don't lean in. And they're prioritizing other things. And actually, sometimes you just have to lean in.
So does that mean, are you looking for women who've got that little bit more hunger, a bit more of a fire in their belly, that are going to put themselves forward a little bit more? Does that help to make the job a bit better? What would help a woman make your job easier?
All the things we said earlier about what makes it doesn't make a difference. For me, it doesn't make a difference if you're male or female. You need to tick all the boxes and you need to do everything properly. You know, audiences are now saying we want more women, which is great. So it doesn't really make a difference. But also, I suppose in some cases, a woman has to conform a little bit more. And a lot of women don't always conform to the corporate view of what you should look like as a professional woman. And that makes it harder. A man can. So, for example, two of my favorite speakers are Kjell Nordstrom and Jonas Ridderstrahler, and they speak about economics, and they're former professors. And when they came onto the stage, we called them the rock stars. You know, they talked about funky business, and they looked like rock stars. You know, one of them wore leather jackets and tight trousers and a sort of like a fishnet top. And they both had bald heads and glasses and had this look, and they got away with it. Now, if a woman did that, obviously the fishnet wouldn't work, but if a woman dressed in that way, coming onto them, you know, as an economist, she'd struggle. Although you do see people like Susan Greenfield, who always looks wonderful and has a great, beautiful false eyelashes, and people like Jo Malone, who always looks wonderful, but it's not quite as out there. They can't be quite as out there, which is, you have to conform a bit, which is really boring.
I had a mentor of mine who used to say that until you've made it, when you've made it, you're eccentric. And when you haven't made it, you're crazy. And there is that little bit, once you've got enough momentum behind you, especially when you're working into an area of unconscious bias, and you know it's there, right? So don't make it harder for yourself. And I'm not saying not to be you and not to bring your own unique brand, but there's a visual people need to get past first in order to hear what you have to say. And if you don't understand that, and you're trying to fight too many battles at the same time, you end up losing the war. I don't know why I'm using war analogies, but you know what I mean.
I do. I mean, I remember when I was a management consultant and I was young and obviously female, I had a lot of bias. And although we worked in a team and a group, there were only a couple of us who were women. And, I remember one of my client people telling me, okay, young lady. And I really resented that. I thought, I was a young lady, but I thought, well, hang on a minute. You don't call my colleague young man. Why do you feel you can do that to me? Mm-hmm. So you sort of have to be a bit better and a bit stronger, but also you've got to stand up for yourself. And sometimes we don't. And anyway, I'm going to get going.
And I know you do. You would not sit and tell Maria something and she didn't like it and it would pass you by. Not going to happen.
No. Well, that's the Italian in me. You always know where you stand. So I'll tell you, but we'll stay friends afterwards rather than me holding it in and then stop talking to you. I'll tell you, we'll have a little, and then it's over. It's done. And we're closer afterwards. An Italian thing, Latin thing.
Do you know what? I don't think it's a bad thing. I think many others could learn from it. Just that pure honesty actually just allows you to always know where you stand with people. And I think if, as a female community, just in general, if you could just be more honest with your female companions and just tell them up front, we'd all succeed faster together than all of this tiptoeing around BS. Sometimes I think men have got it right with the simple thinking. Keep the simple thinking going. Just what you see is what you get. It's just a lot easier. A lot easier for it all round. So what I'd love to know from you, because you've worked in highly male-dominated industries, you are working with people who are at the top of their game out there, making an impact, speaking on these big stages, the influencers of this world. So you've seen it from a male and a female perspective, obviously, because those are the people that you're working with. What do you think it is that makes a woman powerful?
Well, that's a difficult one.
They're not easy questions here, Maria.
No, that's a difficult one. On the speaking stage, it's the things that I said earlier. But if you were saying to me, if I can change that to say, can I answer what I think helped me succeed? Or is that another question?
That's another question. Just in general, when you see a woman and you think, oh, girl, she's powerful. That's a powerhouse.
That is a really difficult question. I don't think it's any different from when you see a man. It's somebody that, for me, somebody who has real credibility, has real knowledge or wisdom and experience, and is able to communicate it really well, I suppose, are the things that, for a speaker, those are the things that would make me think, that's a powerful woman.
I don't think it would be any different for you in life, to be honest. Otherwise, you wouldn't be working to book speak.
Yeah, I think it's the same for men as well. I do think it's the same. It's the same thing. Mm-hmm. I think it's the same, really, in reality.
So I am going to move on to the actual really, really tough question. The one that makes everybody think, where they're like, oh, Lovelda. And I'm like, we're going to ask the real stuff. So all of the stuff you've done up until now, working for others, working by yourself, meeting the celebrities, helping people to run, take their speaking from tens of thousands to millions, like literally. What is it that you think, if you were to take everything that you've done in life and business and boil it down to sort of three things that have been the core to your success, be them strategies, tools, techniques, ways in which you've been, what would be your three things? Let's start at the top. Let's start at number one.
Have a plan. Have a plan. But, and this is the thing that a lot of people don't do, have a plan, but keep reviewing the plan and change the plan. So just because you put a plan in place and I used to, when I was younger, have a 5-year plan. Now I don't think that far ahead. I'm getting too old for the plans are shorter. But when you put your plan in place, review it. So sort of see, am I on track? No, I'm not. Then change it and tweak it and change it. And I think a lot of people don't do that. They'll create a plan and they'll look at it at the end of the year and see where they're at. So I actually have always, and I learned this, I honed it when I was a management consultant, but I learned it in my retail career as well. And that was obviously, the retail career was a daily and weekly plan. And then in management consultancy, it was, again, you're reviewing daily and weekly. So you're literally reviewing that plan daily and weekly and adjusting it, which a lot of people don't do. So we used to call it short interval control. So there you go.
That sounds rather posh,
doesn't it? Short interval control. So you're checking literally on a daily, weekly basis, does my plan Is my plan correct? Do I need to rethink it? Do I need to review it? So that I think is a really important thing. And I've always done that, and I've continued to do that.
When you say have a plan, is this like a proper business plan if we're talking business, a full-blown business plan with all of those bits in, or do you plan slightly differently?
It doesn't matter how you plan. We used to, in management science, we used to call it a master schedule. And so you would have a master schedule, and then that's the thing that you'd have a circle, you see. I've gone back to being a management consultant that would, you'd go back and review it and change it. And so we decide what it is that you're planning about. Usually for me, it was always about business. I've been really bad about planning my personal life. That was my bad side. So I always focused on the business side, which is why it's taken me so long to, sort the personal life out. So ideally have a plan for both, and ideally have them fit together. But yeah, so I was always looking at, okay, what are the things that I want to succeed in? What are the areas? And I'd break those down into the daily. I know people now do a 90-day plan, which is a sort of, I suppose, a similar sort of thing. But the planning thing is really important. And I think, what is it? If you plan to fail, you fail to plan? No, if you fail to plan,
you plan to fail.
Yeah.
And do you have specific categories? Let's just take the business planning side. Are there particular things you're planning against? Is it like, I plan to make £100,000 in 2 weeks? Or, is there financial? Is there systems related? Do you have specific categories that you plan against?
Yeah, there's all sorts of different ones. So some of the examples are the ones that you would definitely, there'd be a revenue profit one. You and I were talking about profit before we came onto this.
We'll put a pin in that profit thing. I'm gonna come back to that.
We'll come back to that. So yeah, profit plan, a turnover plan. Where do I want to be? What does the business look like in a year? And now I've added, what does my life look like as well, which I never used to do, but that's important as well. And also your people plan. Where will my people be? And within that, and you can add lots and lots of other things to that, but those are the very simple, straightforward ones. But within that as well is sort of planning flexibility, which again I think is really important, which we learned about. I learned about in management consultancy.
Wait. Planning flexibility. That sounds counterintuitive. It sounds like you put two things together that don't fit together. You got plan and flexibility. They're opposite ends of the spectrum, but you're now telling me to plan. Please explain.
Okay, yeah, it probably, yes. So what I mean by flexibility, so if I've got a team of people, so for everything that happens in our business, every system and process, which I'll go into, that's my number 2, I'll go into systems and processes, but everything that we do, there are at least 2 other people that know how to do it.
Oh,
that's what I mean.
That is smart.
So you never, if something happens, your business doesn't fall flat. So this is something that we used to do in management consulting. We used to make sure that there were always 2 other people that could do everything that you could do if it was necessary. So that, I think that's very important, to have that flexibility, which then means as the business changes and grows and something new comes in for one person, there's somebody else that can pick up the slack if something's changed for them. So you've always got total flexibility. So no one person owns a role entirely. So I avoid job titles a lot, because I think job title puts you into one, silos you in a way, and that's not great. You need to be flexible to do lots of stuff.
That is so clever. I mean, when you say it now, it makes bloody good sense, right? But I hadn't thought of it before.
Yeah, no, it's important, and you could succeed. I would say 95% of everything we do, we can do that. There are 5% things that I can't delegate because I am the director of a limited company, and that's stuff I have to do, that I'm responsible for. I can't have somebody else doing. If I could, I would.
But I love that. Okay, I'm going to take the pin out of the profit thing, because you and I were having a really quick chat about this before we got on this. There's a book. I'm going to put the book in the link. There's a book that we're both in love with. Maria actually told me about this book a while ago, and did I read it? Did I squat? Now I'm into it. I'm converted. So what's the name of the book, Maria?
Yeah, you're going to, I can't pronounce the man's surname though. So the book is called Profit First.
Michael Michalowicz.
Well done.
Partially know this because I listened to it on Audible, and he says it a lot of time.
So I prefer to read my books. I'm old-fashioned because I like to write in the books, and I like to make notes, and I make notes at the back, and I write my action plan. So I find that hard when I'm listening on audio, and also I get distracted on audio. But yes, so I wish I had read that book when I started my very first business. And I really recommend it to anybody who wants to make a decent profit and manage their business properly. It's just insightful, brilliant.
I think everybody should be making a profit in their business. I mean, I read the book, implemented it straight away, because I don't like to read stuff and put it at the side. So it takes me longer to read it because I'm pausing, like, let me do that now. Let me set that up right now, get it all set up. But the one thing I will tell you it gives you, it so takes you out of that stress where every month you're just financially having to work things. There's nothing to work out anymore, and you always get profit. I'm like, this is genius.
It is absolutely genius. And the first thing I did after I finished reading it, I rang my accountant and I said, I need you on board with this, and I'm posting you this book. I posted him his own copy. And then we had a meeting and he said, Maria, I love it, because your accountant has to be on board with it.
Mm-hmm. I'm working on my accountant. But at the moment, they're a little bit busy and they've got fewer staff. Let's just put it that way.
Yeah, there's stuff going on at the moment, yeah.
Yeah, the timing is not great. We're in the middle of a pandemic at the time of recording. So I thought maybe I won't stress them out with my little needs. I've just been doing it. I gave them an update and told them what was happening.
Absolutely. And you can start it without the accountant being involved, but it's a lot easier once they are, because they understand what on earth you're doing.
Otherwise, it just looks like something crazy. I had to sit mine down and explain to them what I actually do, because some of my expenses, they were looking at like, what is that? And I said, I actually have to buy clothes to go on stage. I'm not making that up. I literally buy it because I'm going to do this gig. And they were like, oh yeah, we get that now. But it took a moment. I was like, think of me like acting or something, right? So it does help when they're on board and you can have that sort of discussion. And why do you think that particular book is so important and was so pivotal for you?
Because it totally turns around the way of thinking. Now, I've always loved my numbers. I've always tracked my numbers. So I always knew more or less where I was. But this just gave me some, I love systems. It gave me a system around my cash flow and money management. So if it's a system that's easy to implement and it works, then I love it.
And it is easy to implement, and it bloody well does work.
Yeah.
And what it means is if you've ever had, I cannot recommend this book any higher, if you've ever had any cash flow challenges ever in your business, where it doesn't matter how much money you make, it just still seems to be that the paying of the bills on time, it always seems to be a struggle. You need to read this book. Anyhow, so let's move swiftly on to number two. So the first one is planning, including your profits. Read Profit First for that.
Yes.
The second one you've already mentioned, systems. Systems
and processes. I love systems and processes. Absolutely love them. So my team are all on board, and we've all got systems and processes. And so we all understand everybody else's systems and processes. And it's very easy. You know exactly what to do. There's step by step of what happens from an inquiry coming in all the way through to it being dealt with. And it goes like clockwork. It's efficient. And that's what I love. So I spent a lot of time tweaking and designing it, and we're constantly updating, reviewing and changing, because that's what you do. You constantly tweak to make it better. And if you can have a system and a process for everything, it cuts out the doubt, it cuts out the thinking time, and you can just get on with it.
And how do you hire people into that space? Because there's a line between having a process and a system and being a micromanager who just needs people to do things a certain way. How do you get other people on board when you've got these systems and these processes and not end up in a space where they feel like, you know, Maria just needs to know exactly what I'm doing, exactly how I'm doing it, when I'm doing it, when I went to the loo?
It's not that kind of micromanagement. It's a system and process that allows you to do your job really easily.
Okay.
It allows you to, you know, send a proposal really easily and to create it so that it gives, you know, it looks great. It's really easy. It allows you to create an inquiry very easily and to know what needs to be asked and what doesn't need to be asked. To then generate from your inquiry, you can generate the proposal, you can generate the contract for the speaker, you can generate the contract for the client, you can generate the travel summary. Everything is generated, and that was something I created years ago. I haven't found anybody that does that, and I'm sure that people will have actually designed their own systems internally to do it, and I know bureaus have done that, but I was able to take an existing platform and adapt it. And so it allows you the creativity to do what you want in terms of coming up with the ideas and how you talk to the clients. And it just makes it easy for you to log it and not forget it, because we have bad memories.
And so do you use a lot of automation then to support those systems?
Not really, actually. Not really. To generate the various documents, yes, those are you just press a button and you generate it and it auto fills it. But we don't use a lot of automation because for us it's not about volume in terms of relationships. It's about good relationships with fewer people, going deep. And I think automation ruins that.
I ask because often, especially in this day and age, systems and automation seem to be used almost interchangeably, as if they're one of the same thing.
Yeah, no.
And so I just wanted to get clarity on, are you a systems person with a lot of automation, or is your system more about this is what happens at stage 1? This is what happens at step 2. Step 3, this is what we're doing. These are the sorts of questions that we need to ask, so that you've got a very clear route from point A to point B and everybody knows what to do.
Yeah, exactly. It's very clear. And therefore it also means the standards are always the same.
Comes back to standards with you all the time, doesn't it?
It does, yeah. And so what's interesting, when I was a management consultant and because what we did is we created systems for people, and they weren't computer systems. They were systems and processes of working.
Mm-hmm.
You can computerize them, of course, but when I started, we'd only just learned how to turn computers on. It was that long ago. So and we used to do an exercise to get them to understand. I was trying to find this exercise because I haven't found it. I might have to recreate it. And what we did is we would have everybody working, doing the same thing and getting a result. And then we'd split the groups up and we'd actually give one team a bit more structure, but doing the same thing, and they'd get much higher results. And then we'd give that team a system to follow, a process of doing exactly the same work, but they had a process. And the results would go absolutely crazy. And people were like, how on earth are they managing to do that? And it's just systematizing and processing. The productivity just goes through the roof, which means you can spend time talking and having relationships rather than doing
faffing about with paperwork and
There's
admin.
So
and that
much
sort of
admin.
Stuff.
In speaker bureaus, there is so much admin. I cannot tell you.
And I think there's a lot of people with businesses that have a lot of admin, and actually it's not the admin that's the problem, babes. It's not. It's your relationship to the admin that you don't have a way of moving those things forward in a consistent, systemized manner. And that doesn't necessarily mean automations. You heard it here first.
Yeah, I don't like automation, but anyway, hey.
There's a time and a place. There's some things in which I love automations. My calendar, love it. Love it. This podcast, the only thing people have to do once they've booked, I've got nothing to do until it comes to the interview. It's done. It's
apart from decide which top to wear.
apart from that. But it gives me time for that creativity, Otherwise, I'm spending so much time doing all that menial stuff that I don't get to think about the interview that's happening and how we present, and then I turn up and I'm stressed. Nobody wants a stressed out Lovelda. It's not good. It's not a good look for me. I'm just letting you know, not a good look.
Excellent.
And what's your third one, Maria?
Do you know what, it's interesting because we were talking about helping women and what the powers are, and actually I think all of these apply to men and women. Know your numbers. Now, even before Profit First, I always knew I would go to my accountant and he'd say, do you want to know how you've done? And I say, no, I know. I think I've made such and such profit. I've done this more better than last year. And he'd go, how do you do that? Because
it's like, why are you paying me?
Yeah, no. So I always know where I'm at with my numbers. And you'd be surprised how many business owners don't. I know exactly how many days of cash I've got left in this current climate. I know how long I can go for. I know exactly what my outgoings are. I know exactly so I know I can act and I can take control, because one of the biggest things when you're in crisis is you've got to take control. You've got to take control of the cash.
And you can't do that if you don't know what the heck it is.
Exactly. So know your numbers, really know your numbers. And so that's not just about the profit and the cash flow, but also, know how many inquiries you need in order to get, know your conversion rates, know which speakers are the ones that are the most booked, know who your most profitable clients are. Really just analyze. And, again, that's going back to management consultancy, where we used to do huge analysis before we went into a client's company, so that we called it a benchmark, where then we could say, by doing this and this, there's your improvement, because we used to get paid a percentage of the improvement. Not many management consultants work that way. So we would stay in the company until we got the improvements, and then our cut was a percentage of the improvement.
Well, that was clever. Do you know what? That management consulting has set you up for life.
Yeah, it has. It was the best training I ever had.
And the thing is, with a lot of tools, be them social media tools, your email marketing, whatever it is, there's built-in analytics. But I can almost guarantee you, most people aren't spending enough time looking at what those numbers are. So you're doing things based on gut, which is not necessarily a bad thing. I think there's a degree of intuition, and sometimes your intuition is ahead of the stats, right? Sometimes you just have this feeling and a sense to do something different. But it's also being able to track that, to say, well, I've enjoyed doing this all the time, but is it actually worth doing? Does it work? Does it make me any money?
Yeah, and also sometimes it's difficult to know what numbers mean. Whereas if you set them up yourself, it's quite. And I've tracked exactly the same numbers for all the years that I've been in this bureau, so I can go back and see. What happened in 2007, and is it happening now, or is it better or worse? Incidentally, it's worse. I think we all know that, but and we didn't predict that. We certainly didn't predict that.
And what are there specific types of numbers that you personally track that you think everybody should be tracking to a greater or lesser extent? I mean, I think some of them you've mentioned, like who are your most profitable clients, is probably a good one that I think applies across the board, regardless of what sector you're in.
Yeah. So you have to have key indicators that are important to your business, but absolutely know your customers, know your best customers. So I can tell you, because we've set it up, our system now calculates it, I can tell you who our most valuable customers are. I can tell you also how much business we convert for each of those customers. So in other words, not only and the average spend for each customer. So you've got a percentage ratio to say, these guys, if they're likely to book every second time, or these guys are likely to book once every 10 times, because they have a pet behavior, and the quality of the inquiries varies. So we've actually got stats that tells you that, because I'm obsessed with understanding the numbers, so I set it up to do that. So if I've got a limited amount of time and I think, right, which customers do I want to reach out to, I can immediately look at who to talk to.
And that based on, well, these ones, it's not that they're better or worse. It's just that if I've got a very limited amount of time, talking to the ones who convert more often and giving them 5 minutes is going to be a much better use of your time than talking to the one who calls you up every 2 years.
Yeah, and also based on the fact that they have a higher level as well of profit for each event. So we can look at all that too. So yeah, sorry. Numbers. I love my numbers.
Well, it served you well. And I think it's great. It's a great reminder to people, because I think often we can have a really detailed conversation about the softer stuff, the nice feminine stuff that feels nice and soft and fluffy and good. But these things are freaking important.
It's about business, and, business is about numbers.
It very much is. And I think the more you can wrap your head around them, the more you can understand them, the more you can befriend them, the more you can get excited by them, not have them be this scary thing. Like, work out the process for you that has you excited to look at your numbers. And sometimes the beginning point is just understanding them. Like, you don't have to dive straight in. Don't think you got to have the same number of numbers as Maria. Maria's a special case.
I'm a bit obsessed. And the other thing is, I'll tell you what, if there are any young listeners out there, or any parents who want their kids to do well, maths, heaven's sake, maths, really understand maths. So many people don't understand percentages. It's incredible. So we work on margins, and I can talk to some clients and some speakers and even colleagues, in the industry who don't understand the difference between a markup and a margin. It's like, whoa. And it's like, you do realize you're losing a lot of money because you're calculating wrong.
Get a maths class. Like maybe just go back, lots of YouTube videos, watch them in depth. Maria, there's going to be people who've listened to this up until now and their mind is blown from a number of reasons. Either they're thinking, they may now be thinking, maybe I don't approach Maria right now because I'm not ready. Or I just need to be around this woman because she's bloody switched on and I could do with a bit of that in my life. What is the best way for people to connect with you? And all of these will be in the show notes, so you can scroll down and click the links.
Okay, well, if you're a speaker or an aspiring speaker, go to speakingbusinessacademy.com. You can join our Facebook group. There's a link on there if you go on the contact page. There's also some downloads that might be useful. If you are interested in booking a speaker, which there might be somebody out there at the moment, you never know, then the website for the Speaker Bureau is mfl.global.
Yeah, lovingly your name. Love it. Nice and simple. Maria Franzoni Limited.global, MFL. Done. Simple, easy to remember. Maria, I'm going to give you the honors today of helping me wrap this show up. So what one thing would you really like our listeners to take from today's show?
I'm going to add something new, actually, if that's okay with you.
Absolutely.
And I'm going to share something that was shared with me by a speaker that I think is so brilliant, such brilliant, easy, simple advice. And I've shared this with other people too, because most people don't do it and most businesses don't do it. Do what you say you're going to do. And that was Philip Hesketh, who is an expert in persuasion and influence. And because he said the biggest secret, or the secret to having a successful business, I don't believe in secrets, but let's say that the thing that people don't do and will have a successful business is they don't do what they say they're going to do. Or just shut up. Just don't say it. Just don't say it.
Promise less and then do what you promise. Sometimes we get carried away and throw too much in. And it's something I see a lot with women sometimes, that people pleasing. Do you know what? Just throw it in as a bonus. They didn't expect it. If you just do what you said, and then the other stuff, if you can do it, you add it on. Guess what? People are happier. Then you add everything on at the top and then you deliver 20% of it. Brilliant, brilliant advice. Maria, always a joy and a pleasure to speak to you like you wouldn't believe. You have been listening to the Lovelda Show Women of Power podcast. If you have not yet already subscribed, hit the button now, subscribe. Hit the button, subscribe, leave us a 5-star review, and do head over to the YouTube channel because maybe next time you'll see me wearing the leopard print. Who knows? Until next time, have a wonderful rest of your day, and I'll see you in the next episode.